Hello, this is a guy who likes fanfiction and is too lazy to read, so here is Fire Emblem 3 Houses Only Love Can Hurt Like This Part 1 in audio form. Check the description for the links to the author. Chapter 1, Date to the Dance. It was a rainy day at the monastery. It wasn't raining hard, but the ground was smushy in the grass and there were muddy footprints everywhere from the people walking around. Casper and Linhard were walking together. Linhard was holding an umbrella while Casper was eagerly walking ahead and talking, moving his arms a lot like his story was important. "Hey!" Dorothea called out to them from underneath one of the balconies. "Linhard, mind if I borrow that umbrella?" she asked him. Linhard turned around and stopped walking, still holding the umbrella. Casper kept moving forward and accidentally walked into the rain. "Hey! What did ya stop for?" "Oh." He started waving. "Dorothea. What's up?" Linhard sighed. "You know, I sort of need this umbrella. I'm carrying some books, and I don't want them to get wet." "Wet, Schmidt." "Linhard, your books will be fine, it's barely raining." Casper pulled him along to go meet up with their house member. "Oh. Well, I don't want your books to get ruined," Dorothea said. "I'm just meeting my a cappella group and I didn't want to mess up my hair by walking in the rain," she admitted. "Me and Linhard were talking about the dance that's coming up," Casper exclaimed, talking a little too loud even though they were right next to Dorothea. Linhard frowned. "Well, it was more like you talking about it while I listened. I'd rather not waste my energy at a dance anyway." He looked off to the side. "You have a date, Dorothea?" Casper asked. Dorothea sighed. "No, I don't. I'm not sure I even need one," she admitted. "Well, it would be nice. What about you two? Planning on asking anybody?" Linhard didn't even hesitate to answer. "No," he wistfully said. Casper answered right after him. "Hell yeah. I'm planning on showing off in the training area." He grinned. "There will be plenty of girls watching. Or maybe I should pick my girl depending on how strong she is facing me in a sparring match." "Really? Neither of you have anyone in mind?" Strange. You know, I actually heard that there's a new activity planned for this year's dance. Something about walking in a circle and dancing with whoever's across from you or something weird like that. Doesn't that sound fun? Walking in a circle and, what?" Casper scratched his head, but the concept wasn't even confusing at all. "Seems like too much work to me," Linhard said, yawning. "I think I'll pass." Casper frowned. "What? Oh, come on. I need my best pal at the dance. You can be my wingman. Or whatever. Since when are you so set on talking to girls?" Linhard questioned. "Fine. Then Dorothea can be my wingwoman." "Yes. That would be fun." "Well, actually, I'll stick by you. We can help each other get a date. If you want to talk to Ingrid for me and maybe check if she's interested in going to the dance with me, I'll help you find a date as well." "Sound good?" she asked Casper. "Wait, Ingrid? Why would Ingrid wanna?" Casper cluelessly asked. Linhard sighed and shook his head as he looked at Dorothea. "He's hopeless. You'd have better chances of seeing Bernadetta coming out of her room than Casper understanding a word you're saying." "Hey." Casper shoved him, but not in a mean way. Dorothea chuckled. "Just please ask her for me, would you? Don't go inviting her or anything, just see if she's interested." She looked at Linhard, and "Lin, I'm very sorry for asking for your umbrella. I hope you make it back to your room with perfectly dry books." Okay," Casper said. "Sure. I guess." He shrugged. "Not to be selfish, but I really can't afford to let you use this." "Unless you'd like to take a walk with me toward my room," Linhard said. "It's all right. I'm more than fine walking in the rain." She took off her jacket and draped it over her head instead. "Talk to you soon." She quickly stepped off the stairs and hurried into the drizzle. "Bye. Hope you find a date," Casper said, waving. Linhard rolled his eyes and started walking. "Come on. I want to get back so I can sleep. I'm tired." Casper walked with him back to the dorms, and after they split ways, he knocked on Ingrid's door. The rain started to come down a lot harder than before. Ingrid opened the door. Casper. Hello, is something the matter? She opened it wider so he could step inside. You're inviting me in? Okay, AI. He stepped inside, looking awkward to be in a girl's room. He said, well, I was talking to Dorothea earlier. We talked about the dance coming up, I'm sure you know about it. And she wanted to know if you were interested in going with anybody. Maybe she wants to double date. He shrugged. Or we can triple date if you don't mind me tagging along. Huh. That is, if I find a girl. Oh. She thought for a moment. I haven't been paying much attention to the dance. She admitted, I guess it would be nice to go with someone. She mumbled. I guess if someone asks me, I'll go. She said with a small shrug. Well, that was anticlimactic, Casper said. I guess I don't really have anything to report back to Dorothea. He crossed his arms. But, that reminds me. Ingrid, you're pretty strong, huh? I mean, no other girl here is as strong as you. But don't tell Lady Edelgard or Leonie that I said that. They might get offended. He paused. Anyway. Wanna spar? Or something? For some reason Dorothea told me not to ask you to the dance, but I think it could be fun. And my way of asking is challenging you to a fight. He sounded very excited. She smiled, now that actually seems more exciting than the dance. In this pouring rain? Really? You're up for that? She asked, sticking her head out the door to peek at the downpour. Are you really asking me that? Of course I am. Rain or shine, I'm always ready for a hearty fight. He clenched his fists. You wanna head to the training grounds? I'll bet it's empty. We'll have the whole place to ourselves. How lucky. He was already getting a move on. She grabbed her training spear which was leaning up beside her desk. Yep. Come on, I'll race you there. She hopped off the staircase and onto the squishy ground. She ran across the dorms and into the training grounds. Race me. Ah. You're on. He was super excited, and he chased after her. He made it outside the dorms, not caring that he was splashing around in the puddles. He and Ingrid were about evenly matched in speed. When they got there, he caught his breath, grabbing an axe. All right. An axe versus a sword, huh? If anyone's heard Frederick, they'd know I have the advantage here. Maybe so, but it doesn't matter. She responded, gripping her spear tightly. First to land a clean hit wins. Ready? Go. She called out, swiping downwards towards his feet. She almost hit him right away, but he dodged just in time. Whoa. That was quick. I wasn't ready. He stood his ground. But now I am. He made extra effort noises, most of which were unnecessary. He sort of jumped to the side, then took a swing at her. Of course, it was just a training axe, so it wouldn't actually cut her. He swung it pretty hard though. Akdash, she exclaimed as his axe connected with her lance. It cracked slightly in the middle. I wasn't expecting that, she admitted, but even with a defective lance, defective cup, I'll still be able to win, she said, poking at him again with the spear. Just cause he pulled his axe back, wanna ask you to the dance, he dodged, doesn't mean I'm gonna hold anything back. He was starting to get really sweaty even though it was raining since it was humid and he was working so hard. He took a step back, but ended up slipping on a spot of mud, which caused him to lose his footing. Ingrid gasped, but took the opportunity to land a gentle hit on his side. I'm sorry Casper, that ended up being an unfair fight, she admitted, helping him to his feet. I'll admit, I was nervous. One more hit to my spear and I would have been done for. But if this were an eating competition, I'd have you beat in no time. Casper's eyes widened a little when she tapped his side, and he looked at her like he was shocked and or amazed. It was hard to tell. He accepted her help, standing. I guess it was a little unfair. If that mud didn't so rudely stand in my way, I would have won, huh? He shook some rain out of his sky blue hair and he smiled. An eating contest? Well, I do quite a lot of training, and that builds an appetite. You wanna take this competition to the mess hall? He laughed, or better yet, the dance. He held his axe with 2 hands. I've had enough competition for one rainy day, Ingrid told him. Sure. I'll go with you to the dance. It could be fun, and I'm running out of time to find someone to go with. She said, if we're lucky we'll be the best dancers there. Ha. Thanks. Casper said, facing her. He held his hand out for a handshake. This time we'll be competing together. If we're this good against one another, think of how good we'll be as a team. Am I right? He started walking with her to a place that had a roof so they could get out of the downpour. She shook his hand. You're right. I hadn't thought of it that way. She said with a small smile, wait, hold on, did Dorothea ask you not to ask me to the dance? She pointed out after they escaped the rain. If I recall, I remember her saying, ask her for me. He nodded his head as he explained. So I did. She said not to invite you, but to ask you. The way she worded it was a bit confusing. But I remember her saying, ask her for me, so I did the favor. He was completely forgetting the part when Dorothea said she wanted to go to the dance with Ingrid, but he wasn't thinking of it as them going on dates. He just thought she was asking, oh, does Ingrid wanna meet up with me and such? Oh. Alright then. I'm excited to hang out with her at the dance then. Thanks for asking me, Casper, this might actually be fun. She told him. How far away is the dance? I can't remember what day it's on. Yeah. No problem. He gave her a thumbs up. This dance is going to be a blast. He was secretly wondering if Ingrid wanted to be his girlfriend now, but didn't say anything. I think it's, what? 3 days away? Good thing I found a date in time. I was worried I'd be the only person without a date. He glanced around. Was Sylvain asking you a lot? I bet you turned him down. He actually never asked me, she said, seeming relieved. Although I don't think anyone has actually said yes to him yet. She laughed. I know Ignatz and Marianne are going together, and so are Felix and Annette. Do you know anyone else who's going together? I think Lawrence is going with some fancy girl he met in town. And Hubert is going with Edelgard. But he goes everywhere with her. I'm willing to bet Sylvain will find someone the night before or something. He leaned against the wall. Then there's us. He beamed. I heard we're getting a new student as well. Isn't that exciting? I hope they end up joining the Blue Lion House. Ingrid replied. Oh yeah. And I think we're doing some sort of exchange student thing. A few people from my house went to study abroad. I wonder who will be taking their places. None of the main ones. Just the Shruggers. Casper said. But I'm willing to bet they're part of some nobility or whatnot. Whatever. Yet a lot of my Shruggers are gone as well. She added. Anyways. It's just about dinner time. Maybe we should head to the dining hall. She said, looking up at the clock tower. I'll wash up afterwards. She led the way to the dining hall, where almost every student was already eating some sort of meal. Oops. I totally forgot about dinner. Looks like we're just gonna have to show up all wet and sweaty. He started walking, not like that's out of the ordinary for me anyway. He looked around when they got inside. Ingrid giggled as they entered the dining hall. Hey. There's Dorothea and Linhard. Should we join them? She asked, piling some roasted potatoes on her plate. Casper nodded. You bet. Can't wait to tell my best friend that I've got a date to the dance. He's gonna be so happy for me, haha. Think I should set him up? I'm thinking Bernadetta. Don't you think they'd be a good match? Definitely not. There's no way you can get that girl to go to the dance. Ingrid said as she sat down on the bench. Hello you two. Dorothea greeted happily. Casper said, you wanna bet? Challenge accepted. I'll get the 2 people who would rather not go to the dance to actually go. And have fun. He greeted Dorothea as they got closer. Hey. Mind if we sit here? We're all sweaty and wet, but you don't mind, do you? Linhard was resting his head on his cheek and closing his eyes, but he opened them when he heard Casper and Ingrid. Did you guys get caught in the rain or something? In a way, Ingrid answered, stabbing a piece of chicken with her fork. We were training. And I totally won. She smirked. Dorothea smiled. Of course you won. You're incredible. She sighed lovingly. Okay, but only because I stepped in some pesky mud. Casper said, holding a big turkey leg. If I didn't step in the mud I totally would have won. He took a big chomp. Linhard took a small bite of his food. You're blaming nature for your loss. Well, I don't blame him. It did make the duel more realistic, but the slip helped me win for sure. Ingrid said. I would have won either way though. Just saying. Anyway, enough about my blunder. Which wasn't really even a blunder, I just happened to slip. He cleared his throat. But anyway. We got more news. He spoke with his mouth full. Would you chew your food first so we can actually understand what you're saying? Linhard asked, rubbing his eyes. He's a little excited right now, I think. Ingrid said, making a gross face as she placed a napkin over the chunks of meat that spit from Casper's mouth. Casper continued after chewing his food. So, basically me and Ingrid are going to the dance together. We sparred and decided that we'd make a good pair. It's not like we're a pair, it's nothing serious. But you know we're just two strong knights going to the dance together. To hang out and dance better than anyone else. Linhard lifted his head a little. You're going with Ingrid. He looked at Dorothea, but didn't say anything. Ingrid laughed. Yes, please don't get the wrong idea. Just neither of us had a date yet, and we figured a little competition could be fun. She shrugged. Dorothea sat up straight. Wait, what? Casper, she frowned. Why? She shook her head and pushed her plate away from her so that it slammed into Casper's plate and sloshed some gravy from her veggies onto his tray. I'm not hungry anymore. She stood up and turned away, walking towards the exit. Casper ripped off another hunk of turkey. What? He stopped chewing when she shoved her plate at his. What was that for? Well, more gravy for me, I guess. He looked at his swimming veggies. Linhard watched Dorothea go, then turned his head back to Casper. Were you even listening when we spoke with Dorothea earlier? Oh. Casper scratched the back of his sweaty head. Did Dorothea want to go with me? Linhard sighed and stood up. You're so simple. He shook his head and walked away as well. I think they got a bad cut of meat or something, Casper mumbled towards Ingrid's direction. Casper. What did you say to Dorothea? Ingrid asked, worried about her friend. Did she want to go with you? She asked quietly. I have no idea. That girl is confusing me right now. He sounded really confused. If she wanted to go with me she should have just asked. She wanted to know if you were going to the dance or not. I didn't know, so I asked you and now you're going with me. And it's gonna be a great time. Ingrid frowned. Yeah, it'll be fun. Oh, and don't worry about getting me a corsage or anything, I'm not too worried about it. She told him, poking at her meat absently. No. It's fine. She said, standing up and taking her plate with her. See you. She walked away. Ash was carrying a tray of wobbling blessed jelly, looking excited to eat it. Annette excitedly waved to Ash. Ash. We saved you a seat. She pointed across from her in Mercedes. Ash smiled and walked over, looking cheerful. Annette. Mercedes. How are you doing today? Hopefully not letting the rain let you down. He took a bite of his BJ. Annette smiled. The rain isn't bothering us at all. We crocheted a BFFL blanket today. Ash looked excited to be hearing all about what Annette and Mercedes did. Wow, that sounds like fun. I just spent all day reading some books about legendary knights. It made the day go by quickly, that's for sure. He wiped off his mouth. Are you guys excited about the new student? Of course. Annette exclaimed, we're gonna get them to be our friend. She said excitedly. Mercedes pointed at Ash, if you'd like, we can add your favorite color to our blanket as well. Oh, I don't wanna mess up the blanket if my favorite color doesn't match. But I like baby blue. He said, but I was thinking, should we plan a welcome event for the new student? I want to make them feel safe and welcome at the monastery. Oh? I thought the dance was welcoming them, Mercedes thought, but... I think we should have a separate party. One where we don't need to worry about dates or anything like that. Ash said, I'm not worried about dates. I'm still going to the dance, but just to have some fun and hang out with friends. I've never been one for going on dates anyway. Friendships are just as important as romantic relationships, don't you think? Mercedes said with a smile, hey, why don't we go to the dance together? As friends? She asked Ash, giving Annette a strange sad look. Ash said, I'd love to. I'll be the most perfect, most chivalrous gentleman. I'll be like a knight from the storybooks. He let out a soft chuckle. We can pretend to be a noble knight and his lady for the day. What do you say? He sounded really excited about the live RP. Oh. That would be so fun. But I think you already are a noble knight, Ash. Mercedes said with a small smile. Ash said, oh, no. I really don't think so. He blushed, covering his cheeks with his hands. I'm just a student. Maybe I will be a proper knight one day, though. He finished his blessed jelly. Maybe I'll be able to learn a few pointers from the newcomer. Oh, I'm sure of it. She said, taking a small taste of his blessed jelly remains. I just picked out a dress with Annette yesterday. So I'm all ready. Oh, I'm so excited. Oh, I don't have an outfit picked out yet. I knew I was forgetting something. He facepalmed LOL. I'm sure you two will look very pretty though. Thank you. Mercedes cheered, you'd better find an outfit. The two of them stood up, we'll see you soon, Ash. Good night. They left the dining hall. Oh, don't worry. I wasn't gonna get you one anyway. Whatever that is, Casper said. I mean, if you asked, maybe I would have. But this is a no-pressure thing we've got going on here. See you soon, friends. Ash said, smiling and waving. Have a nice night. He sat alone with his empty plate of blessed jelly. Dorothea was sitting just outside the dining hall in the amiibo gazebo, her head in her hands. Okay. Bye. I'll see you soon, Ingrid. He watched her head off, then immediately joined a few of his friends at a different table. Linhard, on his way back from the dining hall, noticed her sitting alone under the gazebo. He usually would have just walked past someone, but he came over when he noticed she was crying. He looked a little sleepy. Sorry, Dorothea. He stood next to her after shaking out his umbrella. She sniffled, looking up at him and quickly wiping her face. Oh. Linhard. Hello. She exclaimed, acting as if nothing was wrong. Would you like to sit? She scooted over on the bench. I saw you crying, he said bluntly, sitting next to her on the bench. He leaned the umbrella against the railing. You know, I could have continued walking back to my dorm. I was quite excited to read my new book on crests and then fall asleep, but I stopped for you. He tilted his head. I'm willing to lend an ear. She smiled, patting his hand comfortingly. Thank you. It means a lot to me, really. I guess I thought this was my best chance for a special night with Ingrid. I mean, why would Casper do that? Linhard looked at their hands, then back at her. Well, I've been friends with Casper since we were kids. And from what I know, he's not too sharp sometimes. He paused. As in, he doesn't pick up on things too easily. It's not your fault, Dorothea. With him, you have to be straight to the point, or he won't understand. I thought I was being straightforward, maybe not enough. Would he have judged me? She asked nervously. I don't know, to be honest. I was going to pull him aside on our walk home and explain to him what you meant, but I didn't think that was my conversation to have, he said, I just wasn't sure. He gave her a sincere look. That's okay. Thank you. That's sweet of you. She said, yeah. Well, I'm nervous to see how Casper would react. It all just seems like a misunderstanding. I may have overreacted. When it comes to Casper, everything seems to be a big misunderstanding. But he's a good guy. Really. Casper has more heart than anyone I know, he said. He won't judge you. I promise. He'll be happy for you, I'm sure of it. All right, thanks Linhard. She hugged him gently for a moment. It'll be fine going to the dance alone. It's not the end of the world. He wasn't expecting the hug, but he didn't mind it. He was just glad that he could be supportive to his friend. You could go with me, if you wanted. Obviously as friends. I wasn't going to go, but I empathize with you. Because of the misunderstanding. Linhard. She exclaimed, you are just the sweetest. I would love to go with you. She said excitedly. Thank you for understanding. I'm not quite sure if you'll have fun, but I'll try my best. She told him. I wouldn't exactly call myself sweet, but I do try sometimes, contrary to what it may seem. When I feel like putting effort into something, I actually put the effort in. It has to be worth my while. He shrugged. I don't know if I'll have fun, but I'll try. She stood up. Thank you again, Linhard. Enjoy your books, okay? She told him. I'll see you tomorrow. She waved and walked off towards her bedroom. He stood up as well, then waved. I will. But I think I'll enjoy a nice, long rest tonight even more. He sighed as she walked away, but instead of heading back right away, he decided to sit under the gazebo alone for a while. Chapter 2, The Dance. Finally it was time for the dance. The ballroom was gorgeous. Claude was dressed up in a neat black tux, leaning against the wall with a toothpick hanging out of the corner of his mouth. Dmitri was walking through the hallway, all dressed up as well. He was alone, and there was the sound of a bottle of medicine or something in his hand. He took some Tylenol, then handed the bottle off to Didier before meeting up with Claude. He greeted him with a pleasant smile. Good evening, Claude. Are you looking forward to the festivities? Me? Yeah, I am. Claude admitted. What's up with you? Do you have a headache or something? He asked, pointing to the center of Dmitri's forehead. Dmitri backed up a step, then put a hand to his head. What? A headache? I suppose just a small one. It must be all of the excitement getting to me or something. He dropped his arms. I might be a little anxious about the circle dancing. Ha. It's just a way to get us to mingle with the newbie. Claude clapped his friend on the back. Don't worry, you don't have to join in if you don't want to, he said, smiling at him compassionately. I mean, I don't want to make my house look bad by not participating, Dmitri said, but it's not the newbie I'm nervous about matching with, it's Edelgard. He admitted. Really? Claude asked, raising an eyebrow. Just try extra hard not to be her dance partner or something like that. I don't know. He said. And I mean, it's not like we'll be dancing with them the whole time. It's just something stupid that Seath made up. True, but, never mind. He waved off the conversation since he heard the band start to play some music. Sounds like the dance is starting up. I have a long line of women who want to share a dance with me. I better head towards the center of the ballroom. Sylvain heard Dmitri as he walked by and spat. Oh, sure you do. Why don't you just refer them to me? He was just frustrated because nobody wanted to go with him. Claude looked at Sylvain for a moment as he passed by, then nudged Dmitri. Why don't you dance with me first, huh? He teased, hoping to get a rise out of him. He held his hand out towards Dmitri. With you. His comment caught Dmitri a little off guard. Claude, I'm flattered, but, he paused, then jokingly swatted at Claude's hand. You're just messing with me, I know. I guess I'm just a little on edge at the moment. He paused. Wait, do you have a date? Claude folded his arms and smirked, leaning backwards up against the wall. I do. In a way. He claimed, not breaking eye contact with Dmitri. What, are they late? He took a quick glance around. You better not still be scheming. I can never quite tell when you're giving me the real truth. He sighed, which is why it's almost impossible to face you on the battlefield and emerge victorious. Why, thank you. You're just full of compliments today, aren't you? But no, I genuinely have a date. She's grabbing me some pigs in a blanket from the snack table right now. Ah, I see. I'm wondering how many refreshments my many dance partners are going to offer me. He said, too many, if I foresee the upcoming events correctly. Just say you're not thirsty or something like that. Claude said with a shrug. Oh, there's my date now. A tall woman with long legs and sea blue hair made her way over to them. She was holding a plate of pigs in a blanket. Hello there, she said, looking at the both of them. Dimitri. This is Bylith, Claude said. She's one of the Academy's new professors. I'm sure you've seen her around the Golden Deer House a few times, he said. Bylith nodded her head. It's very nice to meet you, Prince Dimitri. Dimitri gave her a welcoming smile. Hello. It's a pleasure to meet you as well, Professor. He did the emote where he puts his hand on his chest and bows. He eyed her pigs in a blanket. Claude noticed Dimitri's glance towards the snacks, and took one off the plate. You want one? He asked Dimitri, holding the hot dog towards him. Here you go. He airplaned it through the air towards Dimitri, then shoved it into his mouth. MMMM. That's good, huh? He asked. Bylith just watched, blinking a few times. She had an unreadable emotion on her face. Dimitri wasn't expecting to have "Here comes the airplane" done to him. He gasped, then backed up a little. He had no choice but to eat the snack since it was already in his mouth. MMF. See Claude. He gave Bylith a strange look, then looked back at Claude. It tasted like an average pig in a blanket. He didn't quite know how to answer that. Claude laughed. Well, now you won't be hungry while dancing, right? He linked arms with Bylith. I guess not, Dimitri said as he looked toward the center of the dance floor. He took a few deep breaths to compose himself. When does the circle dance start? Claude asked. I'm not sure. I don't even know if I'm going to partake, Dimitri admitted, but if you're excited about it, I'm not going to stop you. Seath was wandering about, taking a mental head count of the number of attendees. He eventually stood in the center of the ballroom, making preparations for the announcement he was about to make. The groups of dancers gathered around him. The transfer student stood off to the side awkwardly, barely mingling with the Gareg mock students. Casper walked in with Ingrid, holding his arm out to her politely. Right this way, milady. This way to the dance floor, where we can show everyone how much better we are at dancing than them. He laughed. Man, this is gonna be fun. Are you doing the random dance circle thingy? Ingrid frowned, eyeing the crowd that was gathering around Seath. I don't think I will. It doesn't seem all that fun, she said, taking his arm to be polite. I would hate to land on Sylvain and be forced to share a dance with him. No. Casper asked. Well, I guess if you are not doing it, then we can just dance together during that time instead. I practiced waltzing till my feet almost fell off. He laughed at his own joke again, still guiding her along. Oh wow, really? You practiced? Ingrid asked, raising her eyebrows. I didn't expect that. I'm sure you needed the practice though. She lowered her voice when she added the last part. What do you mean? You calling me a bad dancer? You calling this bad? He took Ingrid's hand and spun her around elegantly, which was surprising, given his minimal dance experience. Ha! I'd like to hear you say that I need practice after that. Whoa! Casper! Ingrid stuttered, I don't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't this. She admitted. I'm sorry for doubting you. I think this could actually be a lot of fun, she said. Casper took her hand without thinking. Well, I never doubted you, Ingrid. I mean, I wasn't so sure about going to the dance with a girl, but I actually kind of want to see where this takes us, you know? I'm happy with whatever the night brings. Sylvain looked at the pair, standing in the corner with a jealous look on his face. He really wanted to go with Ingrid. Ingrid looked at Casper for a moment, her face etched with confusion. Oh, all right, she responded, I mean, it's just a dance, right? A school dance, she said, hoping he wasn't getting the wrong idea. Yeah. What could go wrong? Casper said, we're practically king and queen of the dance. He laughed. Not counting the royal highnesses, of course. Do you think they'll participate in the dance circle? She asked curiously, peeking over at Seath. It seemed as if she was looking for someone in particular. Who? The royals? Probably. Don't you know how many people are dying to get a dance with them? Personally, I could care less about Edelgard. Dancing with her, I mean, Casper said. Ingrid nodded. I get that. Dancing with one of them would be far too much pressure, I think. We're better off laying low. She chuckled. The two of them continued towards the dance floor to mingle with the other students. On the other side of the hall, Linhard walked into the room with Dorothea, looking very nice. He gazed around. Why did I decide to come to the dance again? I'm getting sleepy just watching everyone sway. He looked at Dorothea. There's no way I'm leaving you behind though. I say I'm tired, but I'm here for you. Dorothea laughed. It's okay, Linhard. I know you won't. But I don't mind just sitting for a while if you need to. We'll have all night to dance. Linhard spotted Ingrid and Casper dancing with one another, but he didn't dare say anything about it to Dorothea. Sorry for being such a boring dance partner. It's not you, I swear. You're lovely. I'm just not the type to get excited over something like this. In fact, I don't get excited over much of anything, unless it's something I'm intrigued by. He moved in front of her, trying to obscure Casper and Ingrid from her view. No, it's fine. Don't get me wrong, I love to dance. Dorothea exclaimed, but I'm also okay with taking it easy today. I've had a rough night. Linhard said, did you want to sit down somewhere? There are some sweets over there. He pointed to a table full of confections. I think I saw some cake, and I could go for a slice or two right about now. Oh. Cake. Come on. She exclaimed, leading the way over to the table, where Annette and Lysithea were already pigging out on desserts. Linhard followed her over. Hi Annette, he said, taking a piece of cake. He handed it to Dorothea, making sure to cut her a piece with a little pink frosting heart on it. Ash was also at the table with Mercedes, eating some more blessed jelly. This time, for the special occasion, it had fruit chunks in it. Dorothea grabbed a fork and started eating. Hey! Annette exclaimed in reply, isn't it so fun here? She asked. Felix and I are having a great time. Felix was nowhere to be seen, though. Ash smiled, chiming into the conversation. He had some jelly on his cheek but didn't notice. Mercedes and I already did a little bit of dancing. This is a refreshing break from class and missions. We should do things like this more often to keep our morale up, don't you think? He suggested. Mercedes politely pointed to Ash's cheek and handed him a napkin, trying not to embarrass him. She said, oh, I agree. Dances are so much fun. Ash wasn't super embarrassed, but he did let out a small oops after Mercedes handed him the napkin. He wiped off his cheek. Annette pointed to Seath. Oh. Look. The dance circle is happening. Seath suddenly raised his voice, silencing the reception hall. All eyes focused on him. Attention students. It is time for the main event. He enunciated each word clearly. We will form 2 rings, ladies on the inside, gentlemen on the outside. Each ring will walk in the opposite direction. When the music stops, so do you, and you will share a dance with whomever is across from you at the time. Are my directions clear? He scanned the room, hoping Flane didn't sneak into the dance. Of course, she was still in her spot near the corner of the room, looking at the dance floor with wide, sparkling eyes. Seath. All of Gareg Mach replied in unison. Seath gave a short nod. All right. Please line up accordingly. Allow me a moment to coordinate with the band. He walked away, leaving the students to organize themselves into 2 circles. Hey, want to join the circle? Ash asked. We might meet some new friends that way. Come on. He started walking over, standing on the outside. Mercedes nodded. Yes. Let's go. She stood in the girls' circle, right next to Annette. Linhard directed his attention to Dorothea. Are you going to participate? Maybe you'll find someone who's a better dancer than me, he said, setting down his empty cake plate. Dorothea set her plate down next to his. You know what? Maybe I will. She exclaimed. I'll prove that the Black Eagles have the best dancers. She skipped into the circle. Linhard stayed where he was. I don't think I'm going to join the circle because I won't do anything to help your claim, but I'll watch. Good luck, Dorothea. He sat down in a chair, gazing around. He glanced to the side, where Ingrid and Casper were having a nice time together, and frowned. Hanneman was forcing people acting shy to get into the circle. He pushed a girl with long, deep purple hair into the circle. She glared at him, then tugged down the sleeves of her dress. Someone hid from Hanneman because they didn't want to go. Dmitri stood next to Claude. I wonder how this will end up. He noticed the girl with purple hair, wondering what house she was from. Claude pointed to the girl. Look, that's the new student. He exclaimed, redirecting his attention. Oh, and look, there's Edelgard. Dmitri watched the new student, ignoring his comment about the princess. Hubert wasn't standing across from Edelgard, but he was definitely calculating how to end up with her. Whenever Sylvain found a spot at the circle, the girl across from him would try to switch spots with another girl. Due to some rumors, nobody wanted to be stuck dancing with Sylvain. Ignatz was beside Sylvain in the circle. Okay. We're ready, he called out to Seath. Sylvain turned to Ignatz with a shocked expression. Why are they all trying to switch to you? He whispered, trying not to let any of the girls hear. Ignatz frowned, looking up at Sylvain. Well, you see. You have sort of a reputation. He awkwardly situated his glasses on his nose. Seath cleared his throat, pausing the constant chatter. Attention students. It is now time for the mix-up to commence. Band, start the music. They started playing a sweet tune, and both male and female circles began to walk in a spiral, watching each other pass. A lot of girls looked really excited to pass by Claude or Dmitri, but got sad when the music continued to play. Eventually, the music abruptly stopped. Ignatz looked to his right, excited to see who his partner was. Leonie landed on Ignatz. Hey! Up for a dance, Ignatz. She casually elbowed him in the arm. At that very moment, some random girl butted past Leonie and swept Ignatz away before he had the chance to reply. Sylvain pointed to the girl who had just evaded him. Hey! Not fair. What? Hey! Excuse me. Ignatz pulled his arm away from the random girl. I was going to dance with Leonie. What's the big idea? He asked. It was just a random girl who didn't have a name. She was snotty. Sylvain is icky. She sneered. Leonie frowned, pushing through the crowd to reach Ignatz and the girl. Well, at least give me my dance partner back, she said. It's no fun when people don't play by the rules. She crossed her arms, and eventually the girl let Leonie go back to Ignatz. Ignatz frowned. Please don't be rude. He shouted to the girl before she stormed off. Leonie, I'm very sorry. I would never run off on you like that. I promise. That girl just pulled me away. Leonie laughed. Ignatz, it's okay. She was just being annoying, I get it. I know you're a nice guy, which is why I'm glad I got you as my partner. You see, I kind of suck at dancing. She didn't seem embarrassed, she was actually laughing about it. Oh. Well, I've been practicing. So I think maybe I'll be okay at it. He told her. After this dance I need to get back to Marianne though. Leonie chuckled as she danced with Ignatz. Ah. You came here with Marianne? How cute. You guys are sweet together. Both of you are old souls, I think. That's actually not the first time we've heard that, believe it or not. Ignatz laughed as well. I, actually really like her. He got all red like it was an embarrassing thing to say. Oh. So you like her? Ah. Ignatz. She smiled. Did you tell her yet? I'm sure she'd love to hear that you like her. She's such a kind, quiet girl. I think she's perfect for you. And you her. That's so nice to hear coming from someone else. He admitted. And I do want to tell her, I just don't know if tonight's the right night. He said, you see, I sort of have the perfect image in my head for how I want it to go. Well, sometimes timing is everything. And here I go giving you advice when I haven't been in a single relationship. Ha. She spun him around poorly. Just make sure to update me, yeah? I'm gonna be so happy for you guys. Of course I'll keep you updated, he said with a small nod. He knew she'd be happy for both of them. The two of them continued to dance with one another. The new girl with the purple hair ended up landing on Dmitri. Hey, she said, looking at him. What's up? Dmitri gave the girl a kind smile, holding out his hand as an invitation to dance. Hello, there. I'm not sure we've met. My name is Dmitri, but you've probably heard of me by now. Care to dance? His head was throbbing, but he hid it well. The girl shrugged. I guess I have no choice in the matter, do I? I mean, I'd really rather not. She laughed. You'd rather not? It's my demeanor, isn't it? I really need to learn to just relax during times like these. Dmitri let out a sigh. Well, perhaps we should just consider this a chance to strengthen our bond as allies. May I ask your name? Didu cleared his throat and nudged his way in front of the purple-haired girl. He took hold of Dmitri's hand. I will dance with you, Your Highness, he said, gazing at him. Dmitri looked confused when Didu cut in, and he slowly moved his hand out of Didu's. Oh, Didu, not to be rude, but I was going to dance with this lovely lady here. He gave Didu a sorry look. He didn't want to flat out reject him, but he didn't really want to dance with Didu. The girl shook her head. No, really. It's okay, she said, looking up at the both of them. Her eyes were dark, a pretty violet color. Your Highness, she says it's okay if we dance, Didu assured him. Dmitri seemed a little embarrassed. Didu, I'm flattered that you'd like to dance with me, but the truth is, I don't know what the others will think. He glanced around. Surely you understand why I can't be seen sharing a dance with you, right? Didu seemed really hurt. Oh, right. I see. My apologies. He immediately turned around and started walking away. Dmitri frowned, guilt clawing at his heart. Wait, Didu. He reached his arm out and stepped forward. I'm sorry. I am. But, to make up for it, we can grab some tea sometime soon. Is that all right? Okay. Sure. Didu said, without turning to look at him. He made his way over to the snack table instead. Although Dmitri was the one who turned him down, he felt heartbroken. He sort of just stared at Didu as he walked away, then turned back to the girl. I'm sorry. The song must be half over by now. The girl looked up at Dmitri, chuckling slightly. That's fine. Like I said, I'm not too keen on dancing, she said, it's really not my thing, you know? That weird smart man with the monocle made me get in the circle. Dmitri glanced back at Didu one last time before looking back at the girl. Professor Hanneman? Yes, he did force some of the students to participate, but it's not that hard. Here, take my hand, he held out his hand to her. And put your other hand on my shoulder. Oh. Okay then. She laughed nervously, putting her hand on Dmitri's shoulder. So you're like a prince or something, right? She asked. I am, he replied, the Prince of Faergus. He put his hand at her waist, then began to dance. But no need to worry about formalities, I deal with that enough on a daily basis. It's nice to catch a break from that every now and then. The girl shrugged. Then I won't. Being royal seems so stifling. I think I'd hate it. But believe me, I never thought I'd ever be dancing with a prince. Or anyone, for that matter, she admitted. Why would you think something like that? You're a beautiful woman. Anyone should be glad to share a dance with you, really, he told her sincerely, dancing to the music. He made sure to lead so she didn't have to think too much about it, since she said she wasn't the best dancer. Were you hoping someone would ask you to dance? She stopped dancing when he called her beautiful. Huh? Never heard that one before. Thanks, Dmitri, she spoke softly, as if she were unsure, gazing up at him now. She began to dance again. And about wanting someone to dance with me? No, not really. I was happy chillin' all alone. But I talked to one of the Blue Lions, I think. Felix was his name. Nobody's ever called you beautiful before? Wow, then they sure haven't been paying close enough attention. Or maybe they're just daft, he commented. But if it's the Blue Lions you're hopeful about, then you're in luck. I'm the leader of that house. He smiled at her. I've heard. She said, oh also geez I didn't even introduce myself. The name's Shay. But everyone's always called me Shezi. She smiled at Dimitri. Shay, wow. An interesting name, if I do say so myself. I've never met anyone with such a name. If you prefer to go by Shezi, then I will do my best to make sure you feel comfortable. He nodded. Where are you from? Ah, not important. I was a mercenary. Traveled all around the world but, my entire band was killed by some swordswoman, she said, her eyes falling to the floor. Lady Ria was there at the time, and she noticed I was the only survivor. She invited me to come to school here and, here I am. He noticed the topic made her upset, so he didn't ask about it. Besides they were there to have a good time, not to dwell on the past. Well, you'll always be accepted here. Welcome to Gareg Mach, Dimitri kindly said, I promise to make you feel welcome here. He gazed around. Have you met any of the other Blue Lions besides Felix? The music stopped, and so did all the dancers. Shezi shook her head. No. Just you and Felix. I met almost like, all of the Golden Deer though. I think I'm gonna join them. I tried to talk to a young girl with like, shaggy purple hair but she screamed and ran away from me. Ah, that's Bernadetta. She's quite shy, he explained. It takes time for her to muster up the courage to interact with others. But that's okay, everyone is different. He stopped dancing with her, slowly letting go. She stepped back. Thank you for the dance. It was great to meet you. I'll see you later, Your Highness, she said, heading off towards the snack table awkwardly. You're welcome. He didn't get a chance to finish what he was going to say before she turned around. Wait. Oh, never mind. He watched her head off, figuring he would be able to find more time with her later. Linhard was with Dorothea again since the circle dance ended. He saw Casper and Ingrid head to the middle of the dance floor, so he attempted to distract Dorothea. So, who did you end up sharing a dance with? Dorothea told him, a dashing young noble. He was an incredible dancer, if I do say so myself. Though I never did quite catch his name. Linhard spoke over the cheering crowd. Dashing and an incredible dancer, huh? Seems like a good match for you. He smiled a little. Would you consider seeing him again? I feel most of the time, with you at least, you never return for a second date. Or invite them back. And probably for good reason, I might add. Dorothea smiled at him. I think I need some more time to think about it. Her eyes continuously glanced towards Ingrid and Casper. Claude and Hilda were totally dancing it up to the next song in the middle of the dance floor. Ingrid nudged Casper. Whoa, look at Hilda and Claude, she said, pointing to them. Think we could do better? Ha. I know we can do better. Casper let out a pft. Easy. Come on, Ingrid. He grabbed her arm and brought her to the dance floor. Hey Claude. Check this out. He took Ingrid by the hands and started doing a fast-paced, poorly coordinated swing dance with her. Claude raised an eyebrow. Okay, that's literally nothing compared to this. He took Hilda and began doing an even faster version of the dance. Oh damn, they're doing it even faster than us. Ingrid, we're going to have to really step it up if we wanna beat them. Hi-ya-ya-ya. He let go of Ingrid and started doing the coffee grinder as hard as he could. A crowd started to form around them. Ingrid laughed, backing up and cheering Casper on. She felt embarrassed by the amount of people around them, but decided to release all of her worries for one night and have fun. Claude rolled his eyes. Now you just look stupid. Band dance battle. Claude exclaimed. The band switched it up, and began playing a quick-tempoed song. The three houses began a dance battle. Chapter 3, Dance Off. It's on. Casper shouted, doing a zany dance in a very try-hard way. He danced his heart out for the entirety of the dance battle. Dorothea watched, slowly directing her attention towards Linhard instead. What's going on? Even though she seemed confused, she had a content gleam in her eyes. Linhard shook his head. Oh. I don't know. Seems like a dance competition broke out or something. I think I'll sit this one out. He watched for a little while. Looks like everyone is really getting into it, huh? Dorothea laughed. No diss to my own house, but the Blue Lions are totally winning. She told Linhard. Casper is the only one from our house doing anything to even remotely help us win the competition. Figures, Linhard said, tilting his head. I could possibly see you and Ferdinand joining in, but I think Casper can carry us alone. What do you think? He laughed very softly. She laughed as well. He's making a fool out of himself. The Black Eagles are doomed. Ash was doing the Charleston with Mercedes. Mercedes. They love us. Ash said as they danced, knowing they were getting a lot of attention. I know. But the Golden Deer are doing so well. Mercedes answered with a frown. Sylvain did the worm. Dida wasn't dancing, he was standing off to the side, observing Dimitri from across the room. Annette and Felix danced beside Ash and Mercedes, though it looked like Felix would rather be anywhere else. Claude shouted, Golden Deer. Step it up. We can't let people think we're the worst dancers at Garreg Mach. Sylvain wormed harder. Laurence arrived to help his house once Claude shouted, and he started doing ballet that didn't really fit in with the rest of the dancing. Leonie tried to help out as well by marching around in circles near Claude. Casper was making a lot of effort noises while he danced. Petra joined in to help Casper out. She was doing a dance she learned from Bridget, so nobody at the dance was able to recognize the moves she was doing. Claude shouted to his house, I think we're winning. He did awesome breakdancing, and the music stopped. Casper kept dancing even though the music stopped. He panted, Did we win? He looked around him in a circle to see that Petra was the only one from his house who was trying to help them win. Now wasn't that a spectacle? Eloise walked forward, applauding. Haha. The house who gets the loudest round of applause wins the unofficial ethereal moon dance-off. Give it up for her. The Blue Lion House. They received a fair amount of applause. Ash excitedly tapped Mercedes on the arm. Did you hear that? We might win. Give it up for the Black Eagle House. Literally 5 people clapped. Casper gasped, What? I danced my arse off. He looked at Ingrid in disbelief. And last, but certainly not least, give it up for the Golden Deer House. The crowd went wild because everyone loved Claude's awesome breakdancing. Shezzy screamed, happy that her newfound house had just won. Yes. I knew it. She clapped her hands. Laurence glared at Shezzy. Shezzy looked at him. What you looking at? Laurence stared at her with a judgmental gleam in his eye, then shook his head a few times before walking away from her. What the fudge? I didn't even say anything to him, she said with a small frown, then boogied by herself to the jazzy tune that the band was playing like nothing happened. Ingrid chuckled. Sorry Casper, I think you did really well, if it makes you feel better. She told him, I'm gonna go and talk to Dorothea, okay? She patted his shoulder before walking away. Dorothea? Yeah, she seemed kinda mad during dinner a few days ago for some reason. Remember that? Hopefully she's having a good time. Casper didn't take the hint and started following her over. Ingrid didn't realize that Casper had followed her. Hey Dorothea, and Linhard. How are you guys doing tonight? She asked. Dorothea frowned. Oh hello. We're good. She spoke quietly, glancing away from Ingrid. Linhard gave Ingrid a small smile when she walked over. It's been a fine night. All of this energy is starting to get at me, but overall I'd say I'm having a nice time. He sort of drifted away so that Ingrid and Dorothea could talk, but Casper butted in. Hey yo, what's up? Wanna go on a double date and walk around? Casper threw his arm around Ingrid's shoulders. Linhard. We could have used you in the dance competition, you know. You too, Dorothea. Ingrid politely scooted his arm off her shoulders. Dorothea shook her head. Don't take this the wrong way, but I don't really want to be around you guys right now, she said to Casper, glancing at Linhard as she did so. Linhard understood, but Casper, of course, didn't. Casper said, Oops. Sorry, I didn't realize you and Linhard wanted some alone time. Linhard frowned. Casper. She didn't mean it that way dash. She didn't. We'll just head back to the dance floor. Come in, Ingrid. He grabbed her hand, trying to be polite. Didn't know you guys liked each other that much. Linhard sighed and put his hand over his eyes. What? No, what makes you think? Good luck. Casper wouldn't really let Linhard finish, he was too excited about the dance. If you ask me, you guys were the last people I expected to get together. Haha. Glad to know my best friend has finally found true love. Stop. Dorothea shouted before they could walk away. Are you seriously that stupid? She yelled at Casper. What is wrong with you? She didn't realize, but her yelling was drawing a lot of attention. You go behind my back and take Ingrid to the dance, then you relentlessly tease me and mock me about it. Are you seriously that stupid? She repeated. Ingrid slowly pulled her hand away from Casper, her eyes locked onto Dorothea. Casper stopped and turned around, angry that Dorothea yelled at him. What's the big deal? You're the one who told me to ask her for you. So I did. And I'm not mocking you, I'm genuinely happy for you. Seriously. What did I do wrong? He did the angry little emote. Linhard motioned with his hands. Please don't fight. You know how I hate it when you do this, Casper. So don't. What, now my best friend is mad at me too? Are you siding with your new girlfriend now? Casper spat. I'm so confused as to why everyone is mad at me. Dorothea is not my dash. Really? What's the problem here? Casper retorted. You're a horrible friend, Casper. A horrible, awful, selfish person. Also, you dance like an idiot. You looked wildly ridiculous. Dorothea said. Says the one who didn't even join in. I was only having fun, okay? That's what this dance is supposed to be for. I was having fun and I wasn't angry until you decided to yell at me, and I still don't even know what you're so upset about. Casper shouted. Stop talking over Linhard. She towered over Casper. Let him finish. Stop assuming things you don't know. She gave him a little push. Linhard took a step forward. Guys, please don't dash. The push ignited Casper's fuse. Hey. Stop that. He went to give Dorothea a big shove as retaliation, but Linhard stood between them to break up the fight, and ended up getting pushed instead. He stumbled back and fell, hurting his foot. He looked up at Casper, who looked regretful. Oh shoot. Linhard, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. He bent down to help up his friend. Linhard accepted Casper's help, but didn't thank him. Stop being so reckless. And maybe, for once in your life, pay attention to the way people feel. He started to walk away, but his ankle was twisted, so he stopped with his back turned. Didder ran towards the three of them. What is the meaning of this? Have you not seen the enormous crowd you drew with your bickering? His Highness is standing close by, he could have been caught in the fighting. Please, be more careful, he said, turning to the small crowd that had formed around them. Mercedes, can you please help Linhard? He asked. Oh. Yes, right away, Mercedes said, using healing magic to fix Linhard's foot injury. Dorothea sniffled, rubbing her eyes. I'm sorry. She cried, shoving through the crowd and running out of the ballroom. Linhard let out a sigh of relief when Mercedes healed him. Thank you. Casper looked really guilty. I just got frustrated. Sorry, he said to Didu. He looked at Linhard now. Hey. I'm really sorry I pushed you. Seriously. I would never do that to my best friend. But you did, Linhard replied, and even though you didn't mean it, you intended to hurt Dorothea. Casper, please, don't talk to me until you've calmed down. He walked away, leaving the ballroom as well. He was curious about where Dorothea went, although wasn't sure if she would want his company. He kept an eye out for her as he left just in case. Ingrid looked at Casper. I had a good time with you. I really did, but you're so incredibly daft, she told him. Good night, Casper. She followed Dorothea outside. Casper frowned. Me too. Ingrid, I'm sorry for getting into a fight. I hope you can still have a good night, He watched her leave, then sadly sat on a bench by himself. Hanneman approached him. "Mr. Burgleys, I'm going to have to issue you a week of detention for the behavior you displayed." "Yes, Professor," he hung his head. Manuela walked by them, shaking her head in disappointment. She peeked out the window at Dorothea. The dance was a bit quiet after the incident. About an hour later, Ingrid and Dorothea re-entered the dance. They danced quietly together in the corner of the ballroom. For most of it, Casper was just sitting alone. He didn't really want to leave, but he wasn't happy enough to have fun. He finally decided to stand up and go as the night went on, but he caught a glimpse of Ingrid and Dorothea out of the corner of his eye and abruptly turned to face them. "Ah damn." He put both hands on his head. "Really? They couldn't have just told me they wanted to go together. That would have solved so many problems. All they had to do was tell me." Dorothea looked down at Ingrid lovingly as they swayed to the music. "I'm so sorry, Ingrid. I didn't want things to play out this way," she said. Ingrid felt stiff, as if she was uncomfortable to be in a girl's arms. "Yes, that could have gone better. But if you wanted to go with me, why didn't you just ask?" Dorothea frowned. "Because I was nervous. I know that's rare for me. But I know about your history with Glenn and everything like that. So I didn't want to push you too far." Ingrid said, "You don't have to be sorry. But I do appreciate it. Of course, this dance doesn't mean anything romantically, at least. I want to have a good time with you." Her cheeks flushed pink, and she avoided Dorothea's gaze. Dorothea's heart dropped in disappointment, but she didn't let it show. "Right. You're so cute, Ingrid." "Thank you." Dorothea danced beautifully with Ingrid, enjoying the little time they were able to spend together. Claude and Byleth were sitting with each other at a table beside the snack arrangement. Shezzy was nearby, slowly inching closer and closer to them, as if she wanted to start a conversation but didn't know how. Dimitri was walking over to say hi to Claude, but stopped when he saw Shezzy. He gave her a curious look. "Pardon me, but what are you doing? It seems as though you are very close to intruding on Claude and his date." "What?" She spun around and leaned on the nearest table to make it look like she wasn't doing anything. She laughed. "No, I'm not. I think you clearly were." "Well, just from my observations," Dimitri said. Sylvain walked over and stood between the two of them. "Hey, Shay. It's getting late. And I've been here for hours and still haven't had a dance with someone who actually wants to dance with me. I'm kinda desperate here, would you mind?" He held his hand out to her. "Really? You're asking me?" she said excitedly, taking his hand and skipping out to the dance floor. "Wow. I can't believe you asked me to dance," she joked. "I didn't think anyone would wanna ask the new girl." Wait, what? He was clearly expecting a rejection, so he was shocked as he headed to the dance floor with her. "You really wanna dance with me? You're not gonna leave me in the middle of it or slap me across the face for coming on too strong?" He raised his eyebrows, holding her hand. Why would I do that?" she asked, but she clearly didn't know Sylvain's true nature. She wasn't really the best dancer, even after having some experience from Dimitri. "That wouldn't be fair to either of us." "Well, I was just wondering, since I have a reputation for," he trailed off. "You know what? I'm not going to elaborate and embarrass myself any further. He was a good dancer, but didn't really get to show off his talent because nobody let him." "Not bad. You can dance pretty well," Shezzy complimented him. "May we go out for tea later this week?" she asked. She wanted to try and make some new friends as early as she could. "What? Really? You wanna go on a date with me? Huh. Well, I'm honored, Shezzy. We can have a cup of tea together under the gazebo. How does that sound?" He winked. "Sounds totally rad," she said, happily pumping her fist. The rest of the dance went by slowly, until most of the students had returned to their rooms for the night. Although he was tired, Dimitri was the last person to return to his room due to the long line of women who wanted to share a dance with him. He walked slowly, holding his head as he made it back to the dorms. He leaned against the wall with his hand and squeezed his eyes shut, letting out a distressed little whimper. Your Highness. Didu, of course, was awake and ready to help him. Are you all right? He put a gentle hand on his back. He didn't even notice Didu was there. Startled, he picked up his head when he felt his hand on his shoulder. No, he rubbed his forehead. It's my head. I need rest. But every time he stopped talking because he heard footsteps. Ferdinand walked by, and Dmitri pretended he was fine until after Ferdinand was inside his room. Once he was gone, Dmitri dropped the act and leaned against the wall once more. I can't talk about this in the halls. Don't you worry, Your Highness, Didu said, bending down and scooping Dmitri up like a little baby. I'll get you to your bed, he said, briskly walking towards the Blue Lion's dorms. There. I can get you some leave if you need, he said, gently opening the door and laying Dmitri down in his bed, tucking him in. Didu, what are you? Oh, okay, he wasn't really prepared to be picked up like a baby, but he let Didu do it. His headache was so bad that he didn't want to walk anyway. He let Didu set him down and tuck him in, closing his eyes. He opened them after Didu was done speaking. Medication doesn't do much for me. I haven't been able to sleep, and it's making things worse. He turned his head to the side slightly. Would you mind sitting in that chair? There was a chair at his desk that was pushed in. Yes, Your Highness, of course. He nodded before pulling out the desk chair and sitting down. Why don't you take a sip of water? He asked quietly. When did this start? Dmitri sighed. Water will do me no good. Believe me, I've tried. He stared at the ceiling after Didu asked his question, then finally answered, ever since. He trailed off, like it was hard for him to answer. He swallowed. That day. You know the day, Didu, his voice shook. Correct me if I'm wrong, but are you referring to the tragedy of Dusker? He asked. Dmitri flinched at the mention of the name, but was able to answer him. Yes. I am referring to that event, he frowned. And it is because I remember it so vividly that I get these headaches and cannot sleep. Your Highness, please do not let it bother you so much, he said with a small frown. Due to the circumstances of that day, I owe you my life and more, he said. I can't shake it. He felt bad about ruining the snug tuck, but sat up and covered his face. It haunts me every day. Every day. His voice got even shakier. Well, we need to take this step by step, Didu said. What can I do in this moment to make you feel even a little bit better? He quietly asked. Dmitri took a very long time to answer Didu. Don't tell a soul, please, he turned to him. Don't tell anyone how I am feeling, he shook his head. Pull your chair up. He motioned. Here. He pointed at his bedside. Didu used his heels to scooch his chair right next to the bed. I would never reveal anything you tell me, he assured him. I will remain here until you fall asleep. He gently pushed Dmitri into a sleeping position and scratched his back to soothe him. Thank you, he rolled onto his stomach, letting out a sigh. I'm lucky to have you, Didu. I really am. He paused. I am deeply sorry for not sharing a dance with you. But I am comfortable being vulnerable with you. Just know that. He closed his eyes. Would you mind rubbing my head instead? He softly asked. Yes, Your Highness. He said, moving to his head instead. It's okay that you didn't dance with me. I just thought that it would be nice. He lied. I'm sure it would have, Dmitri said, muffled into his pillow. Didu, he took a deep breath, you're so very dear to me. Don't let a rejection to dance make you feel otherwise, okay? Oh. Well, that's very kind of you to say, he told him with a small smile. But no more talking, you must try and get some sleep, he whispered. He blew out the candle on the bedside table. Right, Dmitri closed his eyes. Good night, Didu. He actually fell asleep fairly quickly, which was rare. Having Didu with him made everything better, and he slept through the night without tossing and turning. When morning came around, Didu was still sitting upright at Dmitri's bedside, absently staring at a spot on the floor. Dmitri woke up sort of late, but it was okay cause he didn't have to be up for anything in particular. He sat up, rubbing his eyes before looking at Didu. His voice was a little sleep-raspy. Didu, are you okay? You didn't have to stay here the whole night. My apologies, Your Highness. I just wanted to make sure you didn't wake up in the middle of the night. I am on breakfast duty. I will see you later. He stood up rather quickly and walked out the door. But Didu, you must need dash. He watched him leave, then looked at his empty chair. Oh Didu, he sighed, then started getting ready for the day. Chapter 4, Thieves in Gloucester Territory. That day, after eating Didu's incredible breakfast, Claude called all of the golden deer into the classroom for a meeting. Lawrence was concerned. Claude, why have you called all of us here today? Is this about the new training instructor? Perhaps a new student? Leonie stood beside Ignatz and Raphael. What's up? Claude looked at them all. First up. I'm sure you can see there's a new student here with us already. Which is great. And unfortunately for her, on her first day, we've been called to take down a group of bandits in town. Oh. Geez. That's tough. Leonie said, hopefully this doesn't scare her off. She looked around. Claude continued, second, the professor is officially joining our class. He motioned excitedly towards Byleth, who was standing beside him. Lawrence said, well, we will have to show them how it's done, won't we? He smiled, confidently. Lysithea rolled her eyes. This isn't a game, Lawrence. Stop acting like it is, she sneered. Lawrence looked down at her. As if I would treat a mission like a game. Only a base fool would take a mission like this as a joke. After all, we are to protect the common folk, which is no folly. Claude frowned. Come on guys. Enough. He shot a look at Lawrence and Lysithea before continuing, okay new guys. Come introduce yourselves. Byleth gave the class a small bow. Hello. It's nice to meet you. I hope to be a good teacher for you all. Shezi waved, and you can call me Shezi. Hey. But I'm not a professor. She laughed, just an OL merc. Leonie waved to the new additions. Hey you two. The name's Leonie Pinelli. She eyed Shezi. Glad to know we've got another fellow merc among the ranks. You and I are gonna be fast friends, I can already tell. Claude nodded his head, okay. Now that we have introductions out of the way, let's go. We have no time to waste, he said, picking up his bow and leading the way out the door. The group ended up in Gloucester Territory, where an old man approached them and pleaded with the golden deer to take out the thieves. Claude instructed, okay team. Search the entire town, don't let a single thief escape. Leonie got right to it, searching for bandits to pick off around the outskirts of town. Hilda and Marianne stuck with one another. They were tasked with rescuing innocent civilians from their homes. Lawrence immediately challenged 5 brigands by himself, quickly becoming overwhelmed. I am a bit occupied at the moment. Suddenly, a large sphere of dark magic exploded in the center of the 5 enemies attacking Lawrence, sending them spiraling through the air. Lysithea was standing behind Lawrence, her arm outstretched. Are you okay, Lawrence? She asked, lowering her arm and walking over to stand at his side. Lawrence looked over his shoulder after the threat was eliminated. Thanks to your timely rescue, I am unscathed. I will try to reciprocate your care for my safety in the future, you have my noble word. He dipped his head in respect for her, then resumed fighting. I don't need your thanks. Lysithea said, charging up some magic in her hand, just don't die. She continued to fight at his side. Claude was on the front lines, taking down most of the thieves. Raphael was grappling with a thief. Gosh. These guys really think they can just breeze through here and take what they want? Not on my watch. He was too distracted by who he was fighting, and didn't notice that someone was aiming at him with an arrow. Raphael. Ignatz called, taking down the archer before he could release the arrow. Please be a little more careful. He exclaimed, jogging over, that archer was going to hit you. Huh. He punched the thief in the head to knock him out, then turned to Ignatz when he heard his voice. Careful of what? Was I not watching my back? He looked behind him, then back at Ignatz. Thanks pal. I can always count on Desh. He got cut off as he saw an assassin swiftly running up behind Ignatz. Look out. Since he was strong enough, he pulled Ignatz out of the way with one arm and charged the thief, yelling. He tackled the thief and punched him with both of his fists on either side of his head, taking him down. However, Raphael fell with him and landed face down on the ground. Raphael! Ignatz cried out, as another thief began running towards Raphael as he laid on the ground. Meanwhile, in his line of vision, Marianne was also being overcome by thieves. His crush and his best friend both needed help. What was he supposed to do? He watched as Hilda protected Marianne, and blew out a breath of relief. He directed his attention back towards Raphael. Raphael didn't move. A big red puddle started to form around his body. Leonie saw what was going on as she was fighting with a group of thieves. Ignatz. What happened over there? Is he oh? She gasped when she saw Raphael. She accidentally backed into a barrel and it fell over. It was full of gunpowder. Ignatz gasped. Oh dear, he exclaimed, then quickly killed the thief threatening Raphael. He knelt beside him. Are you okay? Raphael. He shouted, Marianne. We need healing please. Raphael didn't respond. His eyes were closed, and he was bleeding from a stab wound in the stomach. Leonie thought that Marianne may not have heard Ignatz shouting to her. Marianne. We need you over by Raphael's stat. She called. Ignatz started to cry. I'm so sorry, I should have been paying closer attention. He called. Marianne wasted no time, she immediately left Leonie and ran to Raphael and Ignatz. She began using her healing magic, but there was a large horde of enemies charging their way. Marianne. Thank you so much. Ignatz sniffled, ill. I'll try to hold them off. He faced the horde, and felt his stomach knotting with fear. Claude looked at Leonie, then at the enemies. Leonie. He shouted, roll that barrel into the street. He swiped an arrow from his quiver, and hovered the tip above a torch until it ignited. Now. She glanced at Claude before kicking the barrel hard into the street, causing it to roll into the center of the charging enemies. Claude took a deep breath, then released the fiery arrow at the barrel. The barrel of gunpowder exploded, and a bunch of thieves were caught in the explosion. They suffered lethal injuries, some of them died, but most of the thieves were forced to retreat. Luckily, the explosion happened far away enough from any of the homes to cause severe collateral damage. Raphael's wound closed up, thanks to Marianne's first aid. It took a little while, but he eventually moved a little bit, rolling over. He weakly looked up at Ignatz. He groaned, I thought for sure I was a gunner. You okay, buddy? The whole front of his shirt was stained even though he was healed. Why are you asking me? Of course I'm fine, but look at you. He said sadly. 'Cause that guy was headed straight for ya. You saved my back, so I wanted to make sure I saved yours, Raphael said. Come on, can you stand? Ignatz helped Raphael sit up. Raphael grunted as he sat. Ah, that hurts. Definitely hurts. He winced, but he toughed it out and stood up, pulling Ignatz to his feet as well. No need to be sad. I'm here and I'm alive, see. He spread his arms, but suddenly keeled over and propped himself up on his hands and knees. Alive, but I feel kinda funny. The bandits had been taken care of, and Claude and the rest of the golden deer crowded around Ignatz, Raphael, Leonie, and Marianne now. Claude asked, You okay, big guy? Ignatz put a hand on Raphael's back. Whoa. Take it easy, okay? That was a nasty wound. Even healing magic can't help you completely. Can you walk? Raphael grunted and tried standing again. Yeah, I can walk. I can. He bent over again and knelt. Nope. Guess not. He held his stomach. Guys, I'm not kidding when I say I feel real funny. Okay, hold on, you'll be okay. Ignatz said, starting to get really worried. Claude climbed onto his wyvern. I can carry him back. The rest of you follow us as fast as you can. With help from Ignatz and Hilda, he picked Raphael up and swiftly flew him to the infirmary on his wyvern. Whoa. I never thought I'd have to be airlifted because of an injury. He looked at Claude, almost forgetting that he was hurt in the first place, but then he winced as they flew. Okay, the pain is kicking in again, oof. Once they were in the medical wing, he laid on his back. His face was turning a little red, and he was sweating and trembling a little. Ignatz and Marianne were the first to arrive back. Raphael. Ignatz sat down at his bedside. "God, I can't help feeling like this is my fault," he mumbled. "What's the matter?" Raphael coughed. "I don't feel so good, ugh." He started taking shallow breaths, his chest heaving. Leonie and Lawrence walked in soon after, carrying the weapon Raphael was stabbed with wrapped in a small piece of cloth. I am sorry to interrupt, but you might want to take a look at this weapon," Lawrence said as he set it on the bedside table. "I think he was stabbed with a venom-laced blade." Raphael let out a groan. "So what does that mean?" He looked at Ignatz for an answer, but Lawrence answered before he had the chance to. "Poison," Lawrence started. "They poisoned you." He turned back to Claude. "And the only way for him to pull through is if we acquire the antidote. I do not know what that is off the top of my head, because that is not my area of expertise, but I believe it may be some sort of herb. The greenhouse may have something of use." Raphael coughed, shivering a little worse than before. "Well, how much time do I got? I almost kicked the bucket once. I don't want to come close again." He sat up. "I'll just tough it out." He was sweating from the effects of shock. Lawrence added, "Ensure that the others check their bodies for cuts just in case. Who knows how many weapons may have been laced. Geez, this isn't good." "Nice catch, Lawrence," Claude said, meeting his eyes for a moment. "Can one of you guys go find Didu? I'm almost certain he'll know what to do." Ignatz said, "I need to stay here with Raphael. I'll be here the whole time, okay friend?" "Thanks, pal." He reached over and put his hand on Ignatz's shoulder. "Sorry to put you through this." His grip was weak, which was very unlike him. He really didn't look good at all. Leonie raised her hand. "I've got this. I'll go as fast as I can." She gave Ignatz a sincere look. "He'll be okay. I promise." She turned around and ran out, looking around for Didu. She jogged toward the greenhouse, calling for him occasionally. Didu was in the greenhouse, of course, planting new seeds in the ground. "Leonie?" he asked, "what is it?" Leonie was out of breath when she got there. "Didu." She spoke between breaths. "It's Raphael. He's poisoned by venom. Do you have the right herbs to cure it? The antidote? Do you know anything we can try?" Didu nodded. "Ah yes, I have just the thing. This should work." He picked a plant from the back left of the greenhouse. "It's yarrow. Grind this up and feed it to him with a spoon." Leonie swiped the herb from him, already starting to back away. "I have to get back to Raphael as fast as possible. But thank you, Didu. You're a real lifesaver. I mean that." She nodded her thanks, then quickly darted away. "What do you need?" Ignatz asked Raphael worriedly. "Do you need pork? Chicken? Ribs? Do you need water? Do you want me to sing?" he asked. A hearty meal right now sounds." He paused. "Nauseating." He looked lightheaded. "Maybe just some water." It wasn't like him to reject food, obviously. Ignatz frowned. "Gosh, you don't even want meat right now?" "Okay, just hang in there," he said quietly, just as Marianne ran to fetch him some water. Raphael slowly sank back into the bed, his breathing getting worse. He reached out to Ignatz. "Hey, this poison woulda got you quick." He took a deep breath to try and get his breathing to steady. "It's taking a while for me 'cause I'm a big guy. Glad it was me and not you, huh?" Ignatz chuckled a little. "Come on Raphael, now's not the time for jokes." He was holding back his tears as hard as he possibly could. It took Leonie a few minutes, but she eventually made it back. "Do we have a mortar and pestle up here?" she shouted. "We gotta grind this up and feed him." Just as Leonie came back with the herbs, Marianne came back with the water. She set it on the bedside table, and opened a small drawer with a bunch of medical supplies in it. She grabbed the pestle. Here, I can help with that." Marianne took the herbs from Leonie and began to mash them up. Raphael was definitely doing worse. He looked like he was trying to speak, but instead it was getting harder and harder for him to breathe. Leonie took a quick glance at Raphael. "Hurry!" she exclaimed. "He looks bad. We might already be too late." Raphael." Ignatz stood up and placed a hand on his friend's shoulder. Marianne leaped and crawled onto the bed, straddling Raphael's knees so she was hovering above him. She scooped up a chunk of the grinded-up herb with her finger and pushed it into his mouth. "Why you need to swallow this?" she shouted, panicked. Raphael was so weak at this point that he could barely even move. His mouth weakly parted. Leonie gasped and ran over, feeling his pulse. She grabbed his wrist. "Oh. Marianne, he barely has a pulse, it's barely there." Raphael coughed, making it hard for him to swallow the herbs, but some did get into his mouth. Ignatz's front shattered, and he started to cry. Claude made his way over, grabbing the cup of water. Marianne scooped up the last of the herbs and shoved them deep into his mouth. Claude tilted Raphael's head back and poured some of the water in his mouth as well. Leonie watched with her hands clasped over her mouth. Her eyes welled up with tears. "I wasn't fast enough, oh no," she sort of just knelt down. Raphael wasn't moving. He was still breathing, but it didn't look good for him. Once Claude poured the water in, he started choking on it cause he wasn't ready, but it made it down his throat. Ignatz stared at the scene, saying nothing, tears streaming down his face. Marianne slowly climbed off his body. Claude put the cup down and backed away, waiting. Leonie kept her face covered, feeling awful for not arriving fast enough with the herbs. Although it felt like an eternity, only a few moments passed until Raphael finally opened his eyes. He turned his head to Ignatz, speaking weakly. "T told you I'd fight it." He gave a faint smile. "Don't cry, I'm all right, see?" Everyone let out a huge sigh of relief. Ignatz smiled, taking off his glasses and rubbing his eyes with his sleeve. "I never doubted you, Raphael." He leaned over the bed and gave him a gentle hug. Marianne had her hands clasped together, most likely in prayer. Raphael gently patted him on the back. "There was no way I was gonna die on you. Not if I could help it." He was still weak obviously, but not dying, which was good. Leonie let out a huge sigh. "I thought we failed. This is good. Raphael, please rest. Don't overdo it." She was really happy that Ignatz's best friend was okay. She didn't want to lose Raphael, and see Ignatz so sad as a result. Ignatz backed up. "You need to get rest. And don't get up for anything." He pointed at him, pushing his glasses up with his other hand. "You hear me?" He then turned to Marianne. Thank you. So much. I owe you." He awkwardly shuffled forward and gave her a hug. When he pulled away, his cheeks were bright red. Claude raised an eyebrow. "All right then. Crisis averted," he said, clapping his hands once. Leonie saw what happened between Ignatz and Marianne and smiled a little to herself, hoping that everything was working out for them. Raphael sighed. "I'll try. But sooner or later I gotta get back to my regular diet. I'm gonna be craving meat soon enough. Maybe you can bring me my own personal buffet while I'm recovering, huh?" He coughed, already overdoing it by talking so much. "Just rest, okay?" Ignatz told him. "I'll be back to check on you regularly. For now, sleep," he said, then turned towards the others. "Now Marianne, would you dash?" She was gone. She ran away after the hug. Where did Marianne go?" Raphael nodded. Okay. I won't push myself." He cleared his throat, not wanting to get worse. Leonie looked at the door, then back at Ignatz. She took off after you hugged her." She frowned a little. "I'm sure she's fine. Maybe she's just overwhelmed by the situation." "Oh, yeah, okay. Maybe." He turned back to Raphael. "See you soon." He walked out. Claude pointed to Raphael. "You're brave, big guy." He followed Ignatz out of the room. Raphael gave them a shaky wave. "Just doing all I can to protect my friends." He let his hand flop back down. See ya. I'll be better next time you walk in. He pointed, then finally tried getting some rest. Chapter 5, Café Kerfuffle. A few days later, Sylvain exited the dining hall at a brisk pace. He looked around like he was searching for something. Where did they go? I swear I just had them on me a second ago. He checked everywhere, then sighed. Maybe they're at the training grounds. I was there last night when he arrived, he noticed Felix. Oh? Hey Felix. Have you seen my notes? I can't find them anywhere. Notes? No, why on earth would I have your notes? Felix scoffed between breaths. I don't have them. He sliced a dummy in half, then put his training sword away. Geez, okay. I was just wondering if you've seen them, not if you had them. He held his hands up, watching him slice the dummy. Maybe Ingrid has them. Think she's trying to lure me in. He chuckled. No, Felix said, walking over to the weapon racks and picking up a notepad that was sitting above the lances. Is this what you're looking for? He handed it to him. What the? Oh. He took the notepad. You know what? There was a beautiful lady here yesterday and I couldn't help but take interest. I must have set my notes down without realizing it. Thanks, Felix. I owe you. Yeah, no problem, he said with a small sigh. He mumbled something under his breath. Anyways, do you have any plans today? Plans? Sylvain tapped his chin, then shook his head. Nothing definite. What? Did you want to hang out or something? He smiled and nudged Felix. Wanna head into town together? I could be your wingman. Sure, he said. But wingman? Why? Why can't we just go as normal people? You don't need some weird gimmick every time we go somewhere, he told Sylvain. What are you talking about? Have you really never gone into town to sweep the ladies off their feet? He tilted his head. You're handsome. The girls would love you if only you exchanged your scowl for a smile. He pointed at Felix's face. I couldn't care less about girls, Sylvain, he said as they exited the training area. Do you really want to go into town or not? Oh, you say that. He waved Felix off, then started walking. Yeah. I've got some free time before I gotta be anywhere. You coming or what? He waited by the big doors. Yeah, I'm coming. He said with a small sigh. As they walked out, Annette was walking in. Felix. Hi. She exclaimed, holding onto his arm as soon as she saw them. What are you two up to today? Felix cleared his throat, uncomfortably shifting his arm away from Annette. Oh, just going shopping. Sylvain almost walked out, but stopped when he saw Annette. Hey Annette. We're just going into town to. He noticed how Annette held onto Felix, then gasped. Wait. He glanced between him. Are you guys a thing? Are you dating? He was shocked out of his mind at the fact he didn't know that they were going out. Why didn't you tell me? He looked at Felix. I just gave you a whole spiel about how you'd be a hit with the ladies, but you've already got one. Annette giggled. Yep. We are. She said, did he not tell you? Felix replied, no, I didn't tell him. I didn't tell anyone, and I'm not planning on it. He looked awkwardly at Sylvain. So are we going? Annette frowned, seeming hurt that Felix had not told anyone until now. Oh. Well, I told Merci right away. No. In fact, he did not. Sylvain stood with his hands on his hips, facing the two of them but looking at Felix. And I'm wondering why he chose to keep that a secret. Otherwise I wouldn't have teased him about finding a girl in town. That's the whole reason I wanted to go. Well, not the only reason, but a big reason. Am I the last blue lion to know you guys are a couple? Felix shrugged, I don't know. Like I said, it's not a big deal. Annette frowned again. Oh. Well, yeah, you are. All my other friends know about me and Felix. Okay, well. I'll see you around then. She looked sadly up at Felix before heading off. Felix looked at Sylvain after giving Annette a small wave. Are we going? See ya, Annette. Sylvain cheerfully waved, but when she was gone, he turned to Felix. Damn, Felix. You really know how to put a girl down. You can't just keep your love a secret. There are people who might suspect she's single and try to sweep her away from you. Or vice versa. And girls love it when everyone knows they're taken. They like knowing that other people know who they're dating. It's just a fact. Felix, you made your girlfriend upset. So, he said with a small frown. People will find out eventually. He continued walking. I don't know if it'll last long. I wouldn't call it love, he said quietly. We're very different from one another. Well, you should still at least treat her nicely. No matter how long a relationship lasts, it's important to respect one another. Take it from me, I get into a lot of relationships. Not all of them last long, but I at least put my girl on a pedestal and do what she would want. What? I'm totally nice to Annie. Why would you think that I don't treat her with respect? He said, seeming offended. Because you just hurt her feelings. Sylvain buried his face in his hands, then gestured forward. Did you not see the look on her face? How sad she sounded when she walked away. It was pretty obvious she was disappointed, Felix. Okay, well, I think she'll get over it, he said, folding his arms. And you're not one to lecture me on respect. What? I'm full of respect. He pointed to himself with his thumb. You have no right to say that about me, Mr. Always picking on His Highness. He put his hands on his hips defiantly. What? He deserves it, Felix said with a small frown. And that's two separate things. You never show women the respect they deserve. Dimitri is different. Sylvain was visibly offended by Felix's remark. Well, I still show more respect than you. He pointed at Felix. And I can prove it. Not right this moment, but, you know it's true. He frowned. Right. Yeah. Sure, he said just as they entered town. He mumbled something else before turning right and walking into a cafe. What was that? Sylvain pushed the door closed after he heard Felix mumble something, wondering if it was something about him. Go on and say it louder. Seriously. You can say anything to me, Felix. I didn't say anything about you, he said quickly, making his way up to the front counter and reading the menu. He ordered a cup of tea. Yeah, right. Liar. Sylvain sat down with a cup of tea as well, but he was anything but calm. You know, I was planning on having a fun time with you. What? Are you not having a good time? He sipped his tea, not maintaining eye contact. Why are you getting so angry? Because you're accusing me of being sleazy. He almost pounded his hands on the table. It bothers me that you think I have no respect. Really? Sylvain. Keep your voice down, he whispered through his teeth. Look, I don't understand why you're getting so worked up. I'm just telling the truth. Yeah, well, he calmed down a little bit, but still seemed frustrated. It's just, you can't go accusing me of something that you're making no effort to correct. You get what I mean, right? You're being hypocritical. He shook his head. And so are you, he said. You're being confusing. Are you still referring to our discussion with Annie earlier? He asked. Sylvain frowned and leaned forward a little. Yes. It's still on my mind. I'm wondering how you could just make her feel like that and not feel the least bit sorry. You know it's okay to show affection, right? I know you have feelings. You're just iffy. Annette would love to see your soft side. Hell, we all would. When Annette and I spend time alone, just the two of us, that's between us. Nobody else has to know what goes on behind closed doors. He frowned. I care for her. I do. But it didn't sound even the least bit convincing. He smirked. Oh? So you do care for her? See? It's that easy, Felix. He obviously didn't catch the insincerity. All you have to do sometimes is say it. Or, you know, even show it, if you know what I mean. He sipped his tea, glancing around. He noticed someone drop something nearby, and immediately got up. Here, I'll show you what I mean. He walked over to the person. Hey, cutie. Need some help with that? He reached down to pick up the dropped item, which looked like a notebook, but the person slapped his hand away. "Excuse me." The person turned around. "Oh. Oh, whoops." Sylvain's face turned bright red. I thought you were a damsel in distress for a moment, sorry." "Truly. I mean it. Sorry. I mean no disrespect." Felix laughed. "You're just digging a deeper hole for yourself, Sylvain. You're showing me exactly what I was talking about." He finished his tea. "Embarrassed?" Sylvain turned around after realizing his mistake. "I am not embarrassed. At all." He took a deep breath, returning to his seat. "My tea was hot and it's making me, sweetie." "Haha. That was a good one, wasn't it?" He was clearly embarrassed about making a fool out of himself and tried to cover it up with a bad joke. The person from before approached the table, looking at the two of them. "You're students from Gareg Mach, aren't you? I thought those uniforms looked familiar." He tucked a lock of lavender hair behind his ear. Sylvain hid his face. Felix looked up at him. "Yes, we are. I apologize for my friend's behavior. He doesn't have much any respect for others," he said, glancing at Sylvain. "Noted. Although, I can't say I'm not flattered," he said, his gaze resting on Sylvain. "I didn't apply all this makeup to drive people away, that's for sure. But it might do you some good to pay more attention to who you're flirting with before you commit. It'll save you from embarrassment or worse." Sylvain sighed, glaring at Felix as he turned around. "Really, I'm sincerely sorry." He was mostly apologizing to Felix, since the guy he hit on didn't seem offended in the slightest. "Save the apology for the next poor girl you offend," he insisted. "If you wanna call me cute one more time, I wouldn't object," he teased. Sylvain bent over so that his head was resting against the table, then buried his face in the crook of his elbow. Felix raised an eyebrow skeptically. "It's really not that serious," he said, "you can leave us alone." He turned away. "Fine. I won't waste your time anymore." He started walking away. "If you happen to need anything, I'll be around the monastery. Maybe I'll see you around." With a swish of his white cape, he left the cafe. Sylvain slowly looked back at Felix. "Really? Now you're going around telling strangers that I have no respect. You're going to ruin my chances before I even talk to anyone. I have enough rumors spreading about me already." "Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't think he'd act like a freak about it," Felix said with a frown. "Let's get out of here. We'll do our best to avoid that weirdo." Sylvain got up. "You're so quick to judge. You know that." He exited the cafe with Felix. "But I'm not about to start another argument with you. Seriously. That would get us nowhere." He sighed, walking with his hands resting behind his head. Yeah, whatever," Felix said with a wave of his hand. They exited the cafe and began walking through town once more. There was a small meow from their left, and a small gray kitty was playing with a flower in a small alleyway. Felix turned to look at it. "Oh my," he squatted down and held his hand out. "Here kitty, PS. Sylvain wasn't really paying attention, so he didn't see the cat right away. He kept walking, not noticing that Felix was squatting until he tried talking to him. "Huh? Felix, where'd you?" He walked over, not seeing the cat at first. "A stray cat? Did it scratch you or something?" "No, he's playing with a little flower," he said. The kitty trotted over and started batting at Felix's shoelaces. He laughed. "You're just a little cutie," he said. Sylvain raised his eyebrows. "Ah, look at that. Felix can show love and affection when he wants to." He squatted down to watch Felix play with the cat. "You a cat person?" He gave Felix a smile. "I just really like cats. Look at him." He picked the cat up and held him nose to nose with Sylvain. "You're just gonna leave him in the streets?" The cat kicked Sylvain's nose. "Ow." Sylvain backed up and held his nose. Yeah. I'd leave this one, it hates me." He moved his hand away to reveal a tiny bit of blood. "He's a bad cat." Felix chuckled. "Oh, he didn't mean to." He cradled the kitty in his arms. He is not a bad cat, he said, and I'm taking him home. Don't tell anyone, okay? He's staying in my room. Of all the times you show emotion, it's when a cat kicks my nose. He shook his head and continued walking along with Felix. There are millions of stray cats at the monastery. Nobody's gonna notice. Trust me. Yeah, I know. But this one is mine. You can't have him, he said as they walked back towards the monastery. Hey, thanks for going out with me today, he said quickly. I wasn't going to. Oh, whatever. He just shook his head and resumed their walk. He was caught a bit off guard when Felix showed his thanks. You're welcome. He looked at him for a bit. Although we argued for most of the time, you really enjoyed our time together? Or is that cat just making you all touchy-feely? Whatever. I said thank you, the proper response should have been no problem, he said, shyly looking away. All right then, no problem, he said, looking confused. He wondered why Felix was acting so soft and shy all of a sudden. It really wasn't like him. You gonna show Annette your new pet? Yeah. She can see it. I don't think she'll tell anyone, he said, giving the cat another hug just before they walked up the monastery steps. They walked to the dorms, and Felix went into his room and put the cat on his bed. Sylvain sort of followed him, leaning against his door. You expect Annette to keep her mouth shut about a cute cat? I highly doubt that. Is there even a rule about keeping pets here? You gonna name it? Yes. It already has a name, Felix said, putting a small bundle of blankets on the floor for the cat to sleep on. And I'll deal with Annie when the time comes. It's not that big of a deal. Well, what's the name? You can't tell me it has a name and then not tell me the name. He laughed a little bit, watching him make the bed for the cat. Glenn. Felix said quickly, grabbing a small toy feather he had in his desk drawer. He dangled it above the cat. Sylvain got quiet for a while, then frowned. Oh, he didn't bring up the name anymore, not really wanting to make Felix talk about it again. He was wondering why Felix already had a toy feather, but didn't ask. I think he likes this, Felix said, watching as the cat jumped at the toy. The other cats at the monastery don't seem to like this as much. Maybe he was a house cat to begin with? You never know, this cat may have belonged to someone else before you guys crossed paths. The other cats here just want food, honestly. I swear one of them stole from my plate before. Yeah, they're not as friendly as this little guy, Felix said with a small smile. He gave Glenn the feather, then stood back up and stretched. Sylvain smiled to himself when he saw Felix smile, still leaning against the door frame. Well, I guess it is getting kind of late. I mean, late in the afternoon, I guess. Maybe I should go, try to find a date or something. He let out a small chuckle. But it was nice hanging out with you, Felix. Nice to see you looking happy instead of your usual scowl. Yeah, whatever. See you later, Sylvain, he said, straightening a stack of papers on his desk. He seemed to be trying to occupy himself for some reason. Sylvain went to leave, but stopped in the middle of the hallway. He paused for a while, wondering about Felix's behavior for a moment. He was about to turn around, but instead he decided to head off and leave Felix alone. Check the description for the links to the author.